Hello everyone, I'm Ollie, one of the marketing and CRM consultants and AI lead here at HubGem, and we specialize in HubSpot implementation for the education sector. And in this YouTube video series, I'm outlining all of the AI features that the HubSpot CRM offers and how to use them. So this time we're going to be jumping straight into workflows. So for those who are, or perhaps even for those who aren't familiar with workflows, they are not inherently an AI tool in themselves. However, they do give you the opportunity to produce some really powerful and really useful automated actions, things that can happen with your contacts, with your deals, or even for just things within your own account to just trigger based off the back of any of the sort of criteria that we set. So they are not AI by themselves, although you would definitely want to be using them in your account, regardless of if you're adopting AI at a fast pace or whether or not this is perhaps the first video you've ever seen from us on the AI tools. The thing with workflows is, especially when they start to get quite complicated, or you need loads of branches, or you have a very long workflow, and of course when you're first learning how to use workflows, they do seem quite daunting. They can be a little bit complex and time consuming to set up. So if we go ahead and create a brand new workflow from scratch, we can start to utilize the AI to actually help us achieve some of our goals here. So we'll go ahead and just select a contact workflow. For those who haven't used workflows before, you're just identifying what the primary object for your workflow is. So if it's a workflow for contacts, you'd select contacts and so on. We'll start off with a blank workflow and we'll go into the next page here. What we'll then see is sort of the standard screen that we'd be used to here. We can go ahead and name our workflow up at the top and leave a description for it as well. But we're always going to sort of drop into having the box there for the enrollment trigger. Now, normally you would you sort of click into here, you'd go through maybe some of your filter criteria or schedule or whatever it is you wanted to set here. And you'd come into some of these and you'd go into all of your different options. You'd go through your filters, perhaps go through some of your properties and so on. What we're actually looking at doing here is, rather than having to do all of this sort of manual work, and especially again when you're first learning how to use workflows, this can be quite daunting to have this level of data accessible to you. Actually, what we can go ahead and do is use the AI to help us firstly generate this enrollment trigger. So I'll click back into it, and what you can see at the top here is the generate a trigger with AI. Now, like with a lot of the things we've looked at, it's in beta, it's not perfect, but it's there and accessible for you to experiment with. So we're going to click the Use AI to Generate button. And now, rather than dropping into a list of all our properties or triggers or filters that we need to go ahead and use, we can just kind of describe to the AI what we want to actually include here. So I'm going to go and put in any enrollment for a contact that has submitted any of my forms. I could be more specific with this. I could continue to add criteria and add different groups here, but let's keep it simple for now. That's sort of the prompt I've given it, and now I'm going to hit generate trigger. It'll take a second or two to go ahead and essentially analyze what you've written and pull out some of the different sort of actions and triggers. But as you can see there, it's now sort of previewing the AI generated trigger, and as you can see, it's pulled in the criteria for simply contact has completed a form submission, any form. We weren't specific with any particular forms, and that's the only instruction we gave it, and actually that is ultimately the result that I wanted with that prompt. Just like with a lot of the tools, I can rate the suggestion it gave me, so we can give it a smiley face and any sort of feedback just to help, again, HubSpot improve the AI tools as we move forwards with them. If I'm happy with that, I can hit keep trigger. All of that will then sort of disappear for me, and I've got my enrollment trigger there as well. Now, if we wanted to go in and perhaps alter this, of course, we can still do so. We can come in to edit the criteria for this and expand on this, maybe add a specific form submission or continue to add some and or groups. And we can still do that, with the generating a trigger with AI option here as well. So if we needed multiple groups, we could go through the same process. And of course, if you were more descriptive and did say, I want this particular form to be the sort of criteria here, then it will try and work that out for you as well. So now that we have our enrollment trigger created, of course, we now need to actually go ahead and do some actions with those contacts who drop into our workflow. So we'll hit the plus button for our actions. And again, just like you'd sort of normally do manually, you've got some of your quick actions and you've got your different sort of folders here for sending emails, for comms, for any sort of CRM actions and so on. But again, at the top, we've got the generate actions with AI button. So again, we can click onto that. It does give us a slightly sort of different sort of prompt here. So with the enrollment criteria, it's going to be very much sort of they've done this or this thing is true for them to set that up. Whereas with actions, of course, we can describe doing sort of multiple steps. So you can kind of use both approaches. You can kind of go one by one, do all of your actions as a single prompt. Or like with the example here, you can actually sort of give it a bit of a string of text for some sort of multiple steps, and it will try and work out how to do each of those. So we'll kind of showcase both ways. So what I'll do initially is just ask it to add we want to add sort of a delay in time for this workflow actually happening, and we'll just go with 7 days. So again, fairly easy prompt, should take no time at all to sort of come up with the right action for that. We'll hit generate and it will sort of start to pull out the information that it needs. What we should get is the delay box and the time that we suggested there, which is accurate. Delay for 7 days, it's pulled that in. You'll notice for some of these, it does actually give you the regenerate button. So if there are potentially sort of multiple interpretations or multiple ways it could go about doing your request, there is a regenerate button as well. So if it doesn't get it right first time, which it has this time, we could go ahead, regenerate it and see what else it comes up with. But I'm happy with that, so we'll keep the action, and just like we had with the trigger, that'll all sort of disappear, and we'll have our first action in our workflow there. So if we go in to add our next steps, again, we'll go to use the AI to generate these. We'll do something that's a bit more sort of multiple steps within our one description here. So I want to go ahead and send an email, then create task to follow up. So we'll go ahead and generate those actions again. Now this should pull in two separate actions where it's going to first send an email. We haven't described which one yet, so we'll see what it does. But then it should also then create a task for us. So as you can see there, it has given us the sort of correct two next steps, and they are not sort of combined into one. They are two steps in our process here. And although we're missing some information because we didn't include it in the prompt, actually it's given us the correct actions here. So I'm going to go ahead and keep those actions, but I will go into the actions it has produced and enter some of the missing data that we didn't include in our prompt. So we'll click into the send email. Now for this one, of course, all we really need to do is actually pick the email that we wanted to send and go ahead and save that one. That workflow action is now fully functioning. We will now go ahead and send that particular email. With the task one as well, as you can see, it has created a task action and it's assigning it to the contact's owner. All we're simply sort of missing here is a title. So we can just type out whatever it is that we want that particular action to be called. Continue to customize the task further if we wanted to, but as long as we have that saved, we're now again sort of filled in the gaps that we didn't include in our prompt there. So the final sort of thing really to have a look at is how well the AI can deal with creating branches for you. So clearly the enrollment triggers are quite comfortable for it, and when you've got sort of a linear process where you do this thing, then you do this thing, and so on, it's done everything sort of as we would expect so far. When it comes to branching, this can be a little bit more difficult to really just word it in a way that it seems to understand. So you have to be quite specific with the particular property that you want it to branch on, and you also can't be too descriptive with your prompt, I've found, for this. Your mileage may vary, of course it's in beta, of course it will continue to improve. But what I've found is if you sort of lead with create branch, that's a very obvious action. It will know it needs to do some sort of branching. The next thing I would suggest doing is actually being quite specific with the property that you want to branch. So create branch on contact create date, for example. If we go back and sort out the spelling. So create branch on contact create date. So contact create date, of course, is a property. HubSpot will save the date that any of your contacts are actually created on. And we've just asked it to branch off that. We haven't been too descriptive. We haven't said what each branch should be. But let's go ahead and generate that action and just see if that is sort of simple enough for our branches to be created here. What it will typically do is kind of what you get really as sort of a default branch would be two sort of different options for your branch, and then you'll always have that non-met branch. So as you can see here, it has gone ahead and created the basic outline for those. So it did sort of do as much as it could do with the description that I gave it there. So we'll go ahead and keep that action because it has kind of broadly done what I was expecting. We'll go back down, and actually all we'll have to do here is just click into the property and actually define the dates in this case for our two branches. So let's go with today's date, and then perhaps let's go with the same time last month. Of course, just like with manually creating these, we could add another branch if we wanted more than two here, but it's done most of the work for us. And actually it's created broadly what we were expecting. So I'll hit save now. I've made those small tweaks. And now what we should get there is the branch set up kind of correctly. So it'll first check whether or not they were created on that day. It'll then check if that's not true, if they were created on that day. And then, of course, if it was neither, they'll drop into the non-met branch. So broadly speaking, it can kind of cope with anything we'd probably be expecting it to do. When we start to get into, 5-10 steps in one prompt, it can struggle to just interpret how many sort of actions you might want. But as you can see from sort of what we've showcased, a basic branch and sort of multi-step tasks, or even just sort of a standalone task, it actually copes with really well. So I'd recommend, if you're new to workflows or exploring workflows for the first time, definitely make use of the AI, because it will help you, rather than you scrolling through loads of lists and loads of sort of different bits of filter criteria. It does a lot of the heavy lifting. It gives you a lot of what you need for the action, and depending on how specific you've been with your description, you will only need to amend some very small sort of things there. So that's all for this video. I do hope you enjoyed it and of course found it useful or informative. If you want to learn any more about HubSpot or how we at HubGem can help you implement within the education sector, the links you'll need will be on this post or in the description. Bye for now.